What's up? I'm your host, Inspirational. Chapter 48 is out on Webtoons Monday, April 6th, 2020. This was recorded when the chapter is considered FastPass, so if you don't use coins to read, please wait until the day the chapter is free and then come back. This is your only spoiler warning. Now, let's begin. Lauren is down. I repeat, Lauren is down. We're gonna start at the bottom of the chapter when Lauren gets taken down by Belladonna Davenport. We meet Belladonna, or Davenport, for the first time in episode 34 when she meets with Flemings and discloses the first mention of Carmine Camella as the meeting place for the rest of the Apostle workers. The same weapon that Kyrian holds is the Golden Viper venom on what looks like to be a Golden Viper that's on the hilt of the actual blade that she uses. So it's a subtle flex by Davenport, am I right? Now I thought that Lauren was hit by the venom when Davenport struck Lauren down, but I was told otherwise, that Lauren was actually hit with the hilt, knocking her unconscious. This goes along with Sake's statement later as Lauren is blacking out when he says, "Why don't you kill her?" Sadly, none of the spoken parts when Lauren was passing out were lies, or that she couldn't pick up on lies when she's at an altered state of mind. Earlier, Sake told Lauren that he likes her, so I would have imagined he wouldn't want her killed that quickly. So I've been told that the next chapter is the finale. So we have a lot of plot points that hopefully will be tied up by the end of next chapter. I'll get into speculations and hypotheses later in this video, but let's break down the rest of this chapter first. So we get the much needed flashback of what actually caused Lauren to get demoted, and we see the interaction afterwards, and it was a pretty good bit of info that was disclosed, like I predicted. The authors had alluded to this flashback for a couple of times now. Once all the way back in episode 7, where there was a little blur of red on Sake's face on his text, while Lauren actually held back saying he's lying. It looks like the scene was expanded on in chapter 48 as Sake lying happened earlier, and Lauren actually gets pulled away by her fellow detectives. That actually happened afterwards, and more in relation to the framing of the wife. We see a close-up of Sake's face for the first time in episode 26 because we didn't really know who it was in episode 7. Now, looking back on it, that panel of lying and Lauren getting freaked out is with Sake. But even the one in episode 26, the flashback, I can't really find that exact panel in the current chapter, which isn't a big deal. It looks like the authors just expanded on the entire flashback, but gave us glimpses of it really early on. Now for chapter 48, we see from Sake's perspective until he gets taken into the interrogation room. The first panel of the chapter, we actually see Sake with a scar only going up to his eyelid, or maybe it looks like the flashback lines kind of hid the part that goes past up to his eyebrow, but it was corrected in the next panel over, so it doesn't really matter. We learn that Sake worked for Mr. Kevin Cho's father's mining operations, and Sake is getting interrogated because he was one of the last people seen with Kevin Cho before he was stabbed under some bridge in some port. We get the first line by Sake saying that he had no idea who would try to hurt Kevin, which obviously he does. Lauren pinpoints that down, that Sake is in fact lying and has ties to Phantom Scythe, and that Sake really doesn't care about his friend Kevin at all. I think at the end, Sake kind of realized that Lauren can detect the lies, so he pushed the button on the train station strategy to get her riled up, and oh boy did it work. Lauren slams him into the last panel, shattering it, and it looks like her boxing skills actually paid off. I'm assuming she consistently boxes. She has to stay in shape to be an officer. Sake probably knew that if he got this kind of response out of her, then he would probably be able to walk pretty freely out without any suspicion because of how, crazy Lauren reacted to this interaction. Although she has a right to, because she's emotionally invested in the train station tragedy. And of course, exactly when Lauren was held back by her fellow detectives, the wife was dragged in, and the wife wasn't really telling any lies when she was saying that she was set up and framed. And we get an interesting panel afterwards that's still a flashback of Lauren holding a wounded Sake, probably sometime after Lauren became an officer, because she's in her uniform before she interrogates Sake, because I don't know if she would save him after knowing what he did to her and how he played her into getting demoted. It looks like Lauren figured out that Sake actually was involved in the bombing because of his works in the mines of the Cho family. Like I mentioned earlier, Sake does actually like Lauren because of how forward and brazen she is. Where the car was actually taken in the photograph that Lauren has seems to be important because of the fact that Sake actually lied about it, and the kids were only in the car. there were kids there, but Sake, we don't really see any kids. We just see Sake and then the four-fingered driver. One of the comments of the chapter actually explained the triple lie that Sake pulled at the end when he realized that Davenport was behind Lauren. He says no, yes, and I don't know to Lauren's question if the kids are still alive. So that means at least one of the kids is alive, at least one of them is dead, and at least one of them he doesn't know where they are. But that means that he knows where the others, if they're dead or alive. I believe Sake, again, realizes or recognizes that Lauren can tell when she lies, and he kind of uses that purposely, and he lies, of course, but to throw her off and play around with her, because I think it just gives him pure enjoyment at this point. Like when he was talking to Davenport afterwards while Lauren was blacking out, he said, you know, I had this handle that was just messing around, essentially. So now, speculations for the finale of season 1. We can easily have at least half of the chapter take place in the Carmen Camilla, as it's been hyped up and talked about a lot by these Apostle workers, or the Phantom Scythe workers. And it'll probably be dinner or somewhere dark with that mood lighting, if you know what I'm talking about. The authors are really good with that mood lighting and setting that kind of lighting in an environment, so that'll be really cool to see, with hopefully the red camellias flowers placed throughout the location. Now Kieran will either find Lauren on the ground passed out, or Lauren will wake up a couple hours later and realize she needs to go to the meeting spot and figure out what's happening, and this all happens while the sun sets. But in the end, we'll probably see Lauren and Kieran both at the Carmine. I don't know if I'm saying it wrong this entire time, but whatever. And we'll probably see either them sneaking in together, or we'll see two different ways of sneaking into a location. We'll probably get some kind of dialogue amongst the several members that run with the Seventh Apostle, who will probably finally be revealed, especially since it's the finale. And towards the end, we'll probably get Davenport or Kieran killing off all the members, with Lauren tipping off the police so that Kim, William, Herman, and that entire department can see the aftermath of the Apostle landing. Of course, there's gotta be some blood somewhere. We may even get Lauren's friend reappear as part of Sake's entourage, but I guess we'll find out in 2 weeks. That's all for the chapter. Make sure to heart the chapter on Webtoons every time you finish reading, and comment to be a part of the community. Subscribe to get access to these reviews every week. My social media can be found by searching Inspirational on YouTube, Instagram, Twitter, and Twitch. Shout out to my designer. You can find his work on Instagram at JadenV_photography. See you all after the finale of season 1.